Hello everyone, welcome to Come Sit at My Table. We're Tom and Melissa and we appreciate you being here for our video today. If you are a regular viewer, you know that we have been in Florida and we enjoyed our time there. We had such a good time with friends and just enjoying the warm weather. But as you can tell, we are back home. And let me tell you, there is a reason that they have the saying, home sweet home.
There really is no place like home.
There really isn't. Even though we enjoyed our time there and we had a blast with friends, there's no place like home. So we're happy to be back. Today, we are going to make Melissa's favorite pie. What are we making, babe?
Butterscotch pie.
Butterscotch pie. So, we realized, or we think, we have never shown you how to blind bake a crust. Now, you would only blind bake a crust when you're going to fill it with a filling that does not need to be baked. If you're going to make something like a pumpkin pie, you would not blind bake your crust because you're going to bake the pie. A pumpkin pie has to be put in the oven to bake. But you blind bake a crust when you're going to fill it with something that's already ready and will not have to be baked itself. You need the crust to be already cooked when you put the filling in. And that's the case with a butterscotch pie. So we're going to really kind of do two videos in one today. We're going to show you how to blind bake a crust, and then we're going to do the butterscotch pie immediately after that. So it's one video, but we're going to do blind baking a crust and the butterscotch pie. Okay, I hope that's clear. Let's start by doing our crust. We'll talk about our filling ingredients after we get the crust made and get it baked. You know that I love this product. It really is a great product, and it's about as good as you can make homemade. So that's what we're using today. And here's how we're going to do our crust. I've got my baking or my pastry mat down, and I'm going to put just a little bit of flour all over it to keep my crust from sticking. And we'll put a little more on top of that crust. Now I took my crust out of that package and let it come to room temperature. It's been out for, I'm going to say at least an hour, maybe just a little over an hour. So it should be at room temperature and it should be very pliable. It should be easy to unroll. It should not crack or break on me because it should be at room temperature by now. So I'm just going to unroll it, and I like to unroll it with the rolled side down to start with. Well, not just to start with, but that's how I'm going to leave it. And I'm just going to move it around to make sure it's got some of that flour on it. Then I'm going to put just a little more on top so it doesn't stick to my rolling pin. And you don't need much. And I'm just going to rub that around. And now we want to make sure that we roll this out to the correct size to fit in our pie plate. And for this pie plate, I need probably a 13 and a half inch crust. So I'm just going to roll it each direction. Start in the middle each time and roll it out until we get to about 13 and a half inches. Something like that. And we're getting close. Then we will place it in our pie plate and get ready to bake it. Okay, so I think that should be about big enough, maybe just a hair more right here. Right there, okay. Now, the easiest way for me to do it is just to fold it in half and then fold that in half again very gently. I should have brushed some of that flour off of there. We don't want all that on there. And then place it in my pie plate. And then I will unfold it, and that should cover about half the plate. Bring it this way, And that should fill the pie plate. Now, when you are, babe, if you don't care, I'm going to move this mat. Just kind of get it out of my way a little bit. Let me just fold it up. That way I can move my pie plate around. Okay. Now, when you are putting your pie crust in your pie plate, the last thing in the world you want to do is stretch that crust. If you stretch it, it's going to want to go back to the original shape and size. So you just want to gently work it down into your pie plate without stretching it. Just kind of pull this up and over, making sure that it's down in there flat. You can see here how there's a little wrinkle in there. All you have to do is just kind of work that out. Just kind of manipulate it a little bit and that'll go out of there. Same right here. And we just want to get it all the way around, get it down in there really well. Now, once we have it down in there, we have it fit in our pie plate. We don't want this hanging over the edge like this, so if you have anything hanging over, just gently fold it under. Just make the edge of your pie crust a little thicker. I'm going to move the pie plate for you so you can see what I'm doing. And it's okay that the crust is a little thicker. You kind of want that anyway. I turned that without telling you. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I'm going to turn it again. So you can see that I'm just folding it under as I go around. Here's a little wrinkle. I want to get that out. So I'm folding these under. And you may not have much to fold under in some places. You may have more in some and less in others. But that's okay. Whatever you have there, just... Now see, there's not much there to fold under, so I probably will just leave that. That's okay. But right here, I've got a little bit. So I'm just going to work my way all the way around the pie crust, folding that under, getting the edge of my crust nice and thick there. Then you can decide how you want to finish the edge of your crust. Now you can take a fork. Let me show that. You can get a fork and just go around and push down all the way around to make little grooves, little ridges. That's not my favorite way to do a crust. I prefer to make a kind of like a scalloped edge. You don't have to push hard. Just kind of I use my thumb and forefinger and the forefinger on my other hand, and I just go around and push them in like that. It's not hard to do. It does take a minute. It's pretty simple to do. And it makes a nice looking edge on your crust. And you know what? If it's not perfect, good. This is not a crust that we bought from the store. This is one we're semi-homemaking. So it should look like we made it, right? Shouldn't look perfect. Okay, now,
Okay.
Thank you. Now, we have our pie crust in. Now we have to bake it. A lot of people will take a fork and poke holes in the crust. That's called docking the crust. You really should not do that if you're putting in a liquid filling, something like a quiche or a pumpkin pie filling, because it will soak down into those holes where you've docked the pie crust and your pie crust will get soggy. If you're putting something thicker in, you can dock the crust if you want to before you bake it. But I don't do that. I just think every time you poke a hole in it, you're asking for liquid to come through that hole and leak into your pie plate and ruin your crust. So instead, I take a piece of parchment paper. I just take a square piece and I fold it in half and in half again, and in half again. 3 folds. And then I just cut it straight across. And when you open it up, you kind of have a circle. Now, if you've watched me before, you know that when I use parchment paper that I have to fit into a cookie sheet or a pie crust, I crumble it. I crunch it up because it just helps it to fit into the pie plate or the baking sheet a little easier than if you just try to put it in there the way it is. So I'm just going to put this down inside my pie crust, just like this. Make sure it's down in the corners. Then I'm going to take, well, a lot of people use pie weights, and you can buy these little ceramic beads that are pie weights. But for my entire life, when I've made pies, I just use pinto beans. And I have used these same beans for, well, I don't know how long. Years and years and years. So I just fit those in there. I kind of put them up around the edge really well because I don't want that edge to shrink. And you can put as many in there as you want. Just, you know, you don't want to go higher than your parchment paper. But all you're doing is weighting down that crust so that it does not shrink during the baking time. So we're just making sure that pie crust stays against the pie plate. Oops, I got a bean down in there. Let me fish that out. Got a bean right there. And it's going to go down in further. Come out there, bean.
The spoon might be more effective.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. Make sure my pie crust is not damaged. Okay, so we're just going to fit those in, and now we're going to bake our crust. The weight of those beans will hold that crust down so it doesn't bubble up on the bottom. That's the whole reason people dock their crust with a fork. If you don't have something to hold it down, the bottom of that crust is going to bubble up a little bit. And it could even shrink away from the side of your pie plate. So you need something. Either weight it down or you're going to have to dock it. Now, we're going into a preheated 450 degree oven for about 10 minutes. By the way, I am going to put a pie ring on top of it because I don't want the edge to burn. Nobody wants burnt crust on their pie. So I do put a pie ring on there, and you can get those anywhere. You can get them on Amazon or the big box stores.
Is it called a ring or a shield?
Well, you can call it a pie shield. It is called a pie shield, I guess, but I always call it a pie ring or a pie crust shield. Doesn't matter. On here, it's actually called, pie crust shield. Okay. So if you're looking for it, if you're searching on Amazon, you might want to search for that. Okay, so we're going in for about 10 to 12 minutes. At the end of that 10 to 12 minutes, I will take it out, remove the parchment paper and the beans. If the pie crust looks a little wet, I might even stick it back in for just 1 or 2 more minutes without the pie weight, without the beans, just to let that crust dry out, but I won't leave it long because we don't want to take the chance on it bubbling up. Okay, I'm going in, and when it's finished, we'll be right back to make our butterscotch pie. Our pie crust is out of the oven, and it has cooled completely. We removed the beans that we used as pie weights, and we've let those cool completely. You want to make sure those are completely cool before you put them back in the Ziploc baggie or box or whatever you're storing those in if you're using those. If you're using pie weights, it's the same thing. Make sure they've cooled completely. Okay, so let's go on with our ingredients for our filling for the butterscotch pie. We're going to start with 2 cups of sugar, and that is packed in there, packed light brown sugar. So I'm just going to take that and put in my pan. Then we will add, sorry, I'm right in your way. Then we're going to add 2/3 of a cup of cornstarch. Let's just go through the whole thing so we don't make a mess of this. 2/3 of a cup of cornstarch, 1 teaspoon of salt, 4 cups of milk, and we're using whole milk just because that, I think, works better in a pie. It thickens a little better. we have 6 egg yolks. Now we have separated the oat yolks from the white because we're going to use the whites over here for our meringue on top of our pie. So you want 6 egg yolks, and we are going to beat those slightly. Then at the end, after our pie filling has thickened, we will put 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 tablespoons of vanilla in and stir those until they melt in our pie filling. Okay, so I have already put the brown sugar in. Let's put in our cornstarch. I don't know where you want to be, Melissa.
Well, I'll switch sides with you.
You're going to switch sides?
I don't know.
Okay.
Sounds like a
That's fine. So I am going to do 2/3 of a cup of cornstarch, and I'm not too particular with this. If I get a little extra, oh well, it'll just be good and thick. So there's 1/3. We'll do another third. Make 2/3 of a cup. That's pretty close, maybe just a hair more. Okay, 2/3 of a cup of cornstarch. We're going to put in 1 teaspoon of salt. You need that salt in there just for the flavor. Then we're going to add our 4 cups of milk. And I'm going to have to do this backhanded unless I'm sorry. But I'm left-handed, so I've got to stir with this hand. And we just want to add that milk into that cornstarch and brown sugar. We're going to whisk that together just for a second. Try to get that dissolved. And I haven't even turned my heat on yet now. I don't have any heat on it. I'm just whisking this together to make sure that it's kind of all mixed in and the cornstarch isn't in lumps. We don't want big lumps of cornstarch in there. That would not be good. And now, oh, I see a big lump of cornstarch right there. Let's get that out. And now I'm going to do something that's different from what most people do. Most people cook this until it starts to thicken, and then they stir in their egg yolks. I don't do that because there's too much of a risk of those egg yolks cooking and becoming scrambled eggs. And I don't think anybody wants scrambled eggs in their butterscotch pie. So I beat the eggs and then put them in right now and then whisk them in really well before we even turn the heat on. Let me make sure that that's all scraped out there. Unless I'm going to slip behind you and get a little spatula. I should have already had that out here, but I forgot. Pardon me. Okay. We want all those egg yolks out of there, because those egg yolks are also going to help thicken our filling. Okay, now that that's in, I'm going to turn my fire on and start whisking those eggs in. And I want to get those incorporated really well before this gets too hot, because we don't want scrambled eggs. Yep. I just splashed a little bit out. I need a sous chef, don't I?
Is that my job?
No. Okay. You can see that the eggs are whisked in pretty well. You can still see a little speck here and there, but we'll just keep whisking. And it's going to take a few minutes now for this to start to cook and to thicken. And there's no reason for us to stay here and have you watch this. That would be about as exciting as watching grass grow. So I will continue to whisk, and we'll let this continue to cook. And when it starts to thicken and is almost ready to add our vanilla and butter, we will come right back and let you see what it looks like. We'll be back in just a minute. All right, you can see that our pie filling has thickened. I think it's been about 8 minutes, 8 to 9 minutes. So I'm going to turn the heat off. Let it continue to sit there for just a second, and the residual heat will continue to thicken it. And we have to add in our butter. This is 2 tablespoons and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. There's 1, 2. Okay, we'll stir that in. Let that butter melt. Incorporate that vanilla. That smells so good. Somebody I know is going to be really happy.
I could just eat the pie filling. I like it so.
You could,
Could.
or you have before.
Okay, let's not get too ugly here and never tell all my little ugly secrets.
Yeah. We have gotten to this point, and she has said, just put it in ramekins. And we have. Okay, the butter is melted. The vanilla is incorporated. And we need to get this in the pie crust. So, I'm going to take it over. I'm going to use this spoon rest. All right, babe, are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go. And we're just going to pour it in. Now, we'll scrape this. You know that I'm not going to waste that. So let me grab a spatula. And use this. You're going to have to get on the other side of me here. I'll go behind you. There we go. Scrape that out. Put that right in there.
It smells so lovely.
Yeah, I made a mess on the handle. Sorry. You know, this is real life. We're just home cooks. Sometimes things happen. Now, do we know anybody who will help clean that up?
Yes. Didn't leave me very much, but not
I
going to
knew you were
complain
going to
too
say
much.
that. Okay, so we're going to spread that out, get it as level as we can. It's not that important to have it exactly level, but okay, I am going to leave that for you.
Oh,
okay?
thank you.
Okay. Now, let's make our meringue. We'll go over to our mixer and add our egg whites. And by the way, they are at room temperature. And to that, we are going to add 3/4 of a cup of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. But we're going to let these start whipping first.
It's a little damp today. Is that going to make a difference?
Yes, it will. I hate doing this on a day that it's so humid. It is rainy and dreary here. Welcome home, Tom and Melissa. It was sunny and nice and warm in Florida, and then we come home to cold and rain. But that's okay. It's still good to be home. So we're going to let those start to whip, and when they get to the soft peak stage, we will start adding in our sugar, just a little at a time. I'm going to turn them up. We'll add in our sugar slowly and let it dissolve. And we do want to add our cream of tartar before we're too close to the end, because we need that cream of tartar to coat all those little bubbles to help them just hold their shape and puff up.
So why granulated sugar and not powdered sugar?
Honestly, you can use either one. Typically for pie meringue, most people use granulated sugar. So that's what I do. But you could use powdered sugar. You would need less powdered sugar because it just packs in a lot tighter, so you don't need as much of it. Okay, I'm gonna let that beat for a minute before I add any more. So I've added half a cup. I'm going to do another quarter. Now, it's going to take a few minutes for this to come to stiff peaks, so there's no reason for us to stay here. We'll take a little bit of a break, and when the meringue is ready to put on the pie, we'll come back and let you see it.
So you're going to add the sugar and the cream of
I'm going to add one fourth more cup of sugar, 1/4 cup more of sugar, and a half teaspoon of cream of tartar. And then we'll be back when the meringue's ready. All right, we added the last 1/4 cup of sugar and the 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar, and we have beaten the egg whites until they have reached stiff peaks, we hope. Let's see. So if you pick them up, they should stand up, and that's really close.
Okay, do that again.
Okay?
Gotcha.
Close enough. All right. So let's get a little spatula here. Now, our pie is still really warm. And that's good. That's what you want. And you want your oven heated to 400 degrees. And guess what I'm going to say for you?
I'm hoping that heater.
That's yours. All right. So I'm just going to take some and put around the edge of the pie, because we want to make sure that the meringue is sealed to that crust. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that we're going to take it and we're literally going to press it right into that crust. That is no guarantee that it won't pull away. It still might. There's no guarantee that it won't do that. But by pressing it into the crust, it does kind of help it stick a little better and keep from pulling away. So let's just go all the way around the edge. I don't know if you can see this or not, Melissa, but we're just going to go all the way around and press that in. Put some more here on this edge. And you know, if it gets up over your crust, that doesn't hurt anything. It just makes it good. So don't worry about it if it kind of goes over the crust a little bit.
We did the meringue cookies when we were in Florida.
Yeah, that's true. We did.
Now
we're doing meringue again. It's a little bit different, but not much. Okay, you can see that I went all the way around. Now we need to make sure that it's filled down in the middle, and you don't want any air bubbles down in there. So make sure you've got it down in there really good. When our kids were home, they loved this part, especially our youngest daughter.
She was an expert at making the peaks.
She would say, "Dad, let me make the peaks on the meringue." And I figure she'll see this, but I'm going to tell a secret.
Okay, what's your secret?
I don't like peaks on meringue, but I never told her because she loved them. I just don't like the way they burn. But even though she has gotten married and moved away. She doesn't live too far away, but I still put peaks on the meringue, even though I'm not crazy about it. Just for her. Now, how do I do the peaks? I just touch it and pull it up. And that's what she did, but that was always her job.
She did hundreds of them. She would spin forever.
It would get to the point where I would say, Caroline, that's enough. We don't need any more peaks. And she'd say, oh, just a few more.
I think she just liked the fact that they would.
Yeah.
They would do it.
She wanted to make those peaks all over the meringue. And so, guess what Dad still does?
Well, just don't let them burn.
I know. But you have to get the meringue good and done. So by the time it's done all the way through, I don't like that there's a little hole right there, then the peaks kind of burn. But you know what? If she liked peaks, by golly, we were having peaks on the pie. Okay. Wonder who's going to get that. I might share it with you. Okay. Now, we're going into the oven. It's preheated at 400 to let the meringue cook for just a few minutes and brown. And when it's finished, we'll come back and let you see the pie. We'll be right back. Our butterscotch pie has cooled completely, and so we have cut it, and we're ready to eat a piece. It looks really good. It's nice and firm. The meringue looks great, and we are ready to eat. And I don't even have to ask. I know who wants the first bite.
Well, if you insist.
But I'll do a princess bite, I promise. Well, if I can get it on my fork. All right, babe, there you go. How is it?
That is so good.
Good.
It really is.
Wow. I really don't blame you for choosing this as your favorite pie.
That's delicious.
That is wonderful. We do not need to have this in our house.
I know. We got to think of somebody we can share this with.
Oh,
The
my.
sooner the better, probably.
Thank you so much for watching our videos. I wish you were here to eat the rest of this pie. Because if you don't, I'm probably going to. Well, no, Melissa will help me. If you would, we'd appreciate you going right below the video and clicking the thumbs up. That just says you liked our video. Also, the share button in the middle, and you can put it on your own social media. And most importantly, if you've not already clicked that subscribe button, we really would appreciate you clicking the subscribe button because that helps us build our channel. The little notification bell beside of it also, and the word all. By clicking the bell and the word all, it subscribes you to our channel, and you will always be notified when we post a new video. We like to say it gives you a seat at our table. Remember that right under this video, you will see the title of this recipe. If you click that title or anywhere in that little box, that box will expand, and in that box, you will find the written recipe. Melissa always types out the recipe for you in that box, and our contact information is under that recipe. Also, there's a place at the bottom where you can leave a comment if you'd like to do that. We really do enjoy reading your comments, and we appreciate the kind things that you've left for us to read.
We read them all the way home from Florida.
14 hours. And I'm not kidding. Melissa read and typed responses to comments on videos for almost 14 hours on the way home. And it helped me stay awake. So we do appreciate those comments. All right. Thank you for watching. And remember, you are always welcome to come sit at my table. Have a great day.